Here we are. It's been a little while, huh? It's been crazy. We're finally at the end of the election. Thank goodness. I'm just happy it's not usurping all the time on the air. Uh, Although it is, quite frankly, still using up almost every channel I watch on YouTube. But that's okay. I understand. And of course, why I'm here, as you probably know, is to add my own 2 cents to what does Japan think of the election. I actually want to give a shout out to a viewer who asked me to do this, Tai Malik. I hope I've pronounced that name right. Commented on my 4 year ago video where I talked about when Trump was elected and how Japan responded. It's really not too different now. I mean, for the most part, Japan isn't extremely affected by who is president. Japan and American relationships are still very, very good. We're still very close allies. I think the biggest political problems that Japan and America face is number one, their bilateral launch of a anti-air missile should North Korea or China ever try to attack Japan. Japan wants to set up their own. America has said, no, can we please set it up? Japan was like, okay, we'll put ours back. Then Japan wanted to set theirs up again. And then America was like, maybe let's hold off a little bit. Our tensions are kind of rough right now with China and North Korea. So there's still nothing put up right now for a bilateral planned anti-aircraft or what would you say, like a gun that shoot down missile like, I don't know all these technical names of the machines that do this stuff, but it's a weapon that can stop a large, maybe nuclear warhead from hitting Japan. That's what we're talking about. The other big thing that I think a lot of Japanese people were concerned about with both Trump, and they're going to be concerned about this with Biden coming into office too, is the fact that TCP may be brought back onto the table. I talked about this a long time ago. This is a long time thing, and the reason it was such a long time ago is once Trump got into office, he canceled TCP. That was actually something I was very much for. If there's two things I want to say that I think Trump handled well, which again, this doesn't mean I voted for Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I also didn't vote for Biden. So please don't hate me. I think Trump handled China pretty well with all the tariffs he put on China. I mean, America's been pretty abused by China's trade regulations. If you look into it a little bit, I think almost every country is to a certain extent. And the only people who get richer and richer from that are the rich people of China, while the poor get, held down quite a bit. So on top of that, the other big thing was TCP with Japan, which also deals with trade, and bilateral cancellation of the TCP happened, and that was a trade pact that would allow Americans to sell their foods, meats, products at a competitive market in Japan. There's only certain things that are allowed over here right now, and only usually at specialty shops. They do not competitively compete with Japanese markets as far as fruit, vegetables, rice, meat, and even things like medicine too. And quite frankly, I don't want them to. I mean, just to be blunt, Japanese food is better. It's healthier, it's cleaner, the conditions are better. I mean, the fruit, anybody who's had Japanese fruit knows what I'm talking about. Japanese fruit is so much better. I'm from Florida, and I would much rather eat a Japanese orange than any Florida orange. Sorry, I love Florida. I love the people of Florida. I love America. But when it comes to fruit, I love Japan's fruit. Is that okay? The fish is just, out of this world. I didn't even like fish till I came to Japan. Just everything is cleaner. Now, is there as big of a variety of food in Japan as there is in America? No. Does Japan do other foreign foods well? No. They suck at pizza. They suck at hamburgers. They can't make Mexican food here. That's what you get when your country's, still 99.9% indigenous people. I mean, you'll always have them making foreign foods, whereas usually in America we have Mexicans making Mexican food. We have Greek people making Greek food. So, yeah, the authenticity of some of the foreign cooking is a bit not so good. So, there's certain things they've got each other beat in. Okay, Japan definitely procures, has smaller, and raises higher quality farms. I think mostly due to the restrictions placed by the government, the health regulations, the care and the small space that Japanese farmers have to take care of. I mean, farms are so much smaller here in Japan, and I think the Americas has a lot bigger group of people to feed, so they have to mass produce more, which is completely understandable, but quantity and quality are two very different things. All right. So, and I'm also just glad I don't want to see like too many American globalizations come into the market of Japan. I want to see Japan stay as natural as it can. I don't want fast food to take out sushi restaurants here. I want to keep some bit of Japan. They've allowed that stuff in. They're not completely blocking out of their country. They're not North Korea over here. But I don't want to see them lose a lot of their traditions, the beauty. I don't want to see too much globalization. I think there needs to be some sort of temperance in that. And I don't know why TCP is mostly connected to the Democratic Party, but they're the ones that push for that, and I feel like they don't really get how that could adversely affect the traditions and spirit of Japan if they just try to plow through their market with all their own fruits, vegetables, cooking, recipes, and like I said, this isn't just that stuff. I mean, the market would open up to everything. So I know there's still a lot of arguments going on. Actually, I will say most Japanese people definitely thought Trump was winning this. Every Japanese person I talked to was like, "Oh, well, I mean, it's obvious Trump's winning. I mean, look at the map." If I try to explain the Electoral College, it is so different from how the diet works that it can barely translate. It is such a different process. Like even explaining a bicameral legislation, like that doesn't work in the diet system. The way the diet system works is a series of parties who you vote for, who then vote for you, which is somewhat like the Electoral College, but those parties are not represented by a prefecture or state. Does that make sense? Anyway, I'm probably getting way too technical at this point, even for myself. I'm a dummy when it comes to politics. And one thing I will say I always feel is the most true, from my own perspective, is, there's all these opinions and facts and everything being thrown around by the news, on both sides. But I think what a lot of people don't take into consideration is perception is what really affects people. Perception is what affected most of Europe when it came to them saying who they wanted to win, which they chose Biden because they saw Trump as destroying America and destroying their relations with the European nations, which, I mean, some of that stuff I can say I saw with like him breaking the treaty with France. Not that I'm a huge fan of France either. I have my problems with France. But there's so much, and I'm just touching such a small microcosm of that entire segment. Here in Japan, again, relations have always been so good with almost every president, including when Shinzo Abe was in the prime minister situation with Donald Trump. They never really had any kind of clash. Shinzo Abe was anti-TCP, and Trump was like, yeah, I'm cool with that. They still want Japan to lay low on being just a defense force and not starting up any kind of military. Shinzo Abe kind of was starting to push for that, but Trump asked him to calm down, and he did. Things are pretty calm anyway. It doesn't, I will say one perception of Japan, though, that was negative of Trump was how he handled COVID. They could not believe the audacity of him saying wearing a mask was stupid, that COVID was fake, that people weren't dying. I remember one of my students saying that she thinks the reason Biden won was that Trump told so many of his own supporters not to wear masks that when they died from getting COVID or taking some of the crazy cures that he had talked about, he lost that vote and then lost all the votes connected to that vote and branched out into all the family members and relatives of that person who died, which I feel like that's a pretty perceptive idea of how that could have negatively affected his campaign. As far as the whole recounting the vote and people saying votes are being stolen and stuff, yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm more than willing to come back on here and be like, look, seems like everything was wrong. Trump won. His lawyers proved it. Does that seem like it's going to happen? I mean, I've really, really looked into both sides. Like, I've really been like, okay, I need to really hear like what the facts are that they're throwing around. Like, what's the evidence that they're throwing around? And I'm not latching on to anything. Of course, in the comments below, you're welcome. I'm sure people are going to tear it up anyway. This starts the most ferocious conversations. I would ask that you refrain from name calling, racism. If you get too aggressive, the way YouTube comments work now, it'll already like mute you or delete you. And I'm not doing it, okay? I've started to notice that like there never seems to be that much negative stuff ever said in my videos, and I'm not I'm not so deluded as to think like, wow, everybody who watches me just loves me so much. I know that some stuff is being like shadow banned and hidden, and I'm not for that. I am very much for you voicing your own opinion. The only thing I'm not for is, getting into name calling for no reason, especially if someone's just trying to have a civil argument and say their side of a conversation. And if you just come in there and start yelling a bunch of names and cursing, and I'm okay with cursing, but just don't use it in a way that proceeds to name call. I come on, I'm 40 years old. I'm 41 years old now, actually. And I feel like most of my viewers are either my age or close to my age or around that means we're all adults here. So let's just talk like adults, all right? Let's not scream at each other in the comments. Some of you are going to love Trump. That's okay. I still love those viewers. I'm not going to be one of these people that's like, they should have given it to Trump. Fuck everyone who's for Biden, and I'm not the other way around either. I'm not like, all Trump supporters are racist. I don't think that. That's ridiculous. The news is going to show us the craziest people on both sides, all right? The news is going to show us, Antifa for the left, and they're going to show us racist, screaming, hollering Trump voters for the right. I mean, everything I see on the media, no matter where it comes from, I take it with a grain of salt. Even YouTube too. They love to exaggerate it. They love to hype things up. If there's one thing I could vote for, and I think I'll end the video on this, if there's one thing I could really vote for, and yes, I did vote. I did an absentee ballot. If there's one thing I could vote for, I would just vote for peace between both parties at this time. No matter who wins, the only way we're going to really get America to the positivity and constructive criticism it needs for itself to improve is by first making peace with each other on both sides, not just yelling, but actually listening. Guys, sometimes the left is right, sometimes the right is right, I don't think there should be any censorship on either side. I think both should be allowed to express whatever they feel they need to express in a civil manner. I hope a lot of violence isn't ever brought to these fights. I don't think violence ever helps any argument. And I feel like until we can work together on both the red and blue side of America, that not a lot is going to get done. I hope that's not going to be another 4 years of not a lot done, because let me tell you, I don't think Obama really did that much for the country. I don't think Trump did that much for the country. I don't see any kind of massive change that really surprises me or makes me think, ooh, one was so much better than the other. No, and I don't feel that coming with Biden either. I don't feel like, oh man, Biden's gonna do it. He's finally gonna make this. I don't think so. I feel like it'll be another milquetoast 4 years. I could be wrong. I always hope I am. I really do. I really hope. And when I say I hope I'm wrong, I mean I hope I'm wrong in the positive sense that something major happens where we see a wonderful change in America. Um, you know, but that's just idealistic thinking, isn't it? Until we talk again, be nice to each other, be peaceful with each other, stay safe, stay healthy, wear your mask. And I'll talk to you again real soon. Have a good one.